Welcome back to the channel, y'all. It's your girl, Rochelle, and I am back with a new Money Monday topic. That's right, y'all. We are bringing it back. Do you remember Money Mondays, boo?
Sí, buenos días.
This fool. If y'all don't know, now you know. This is the man that I'm always referring to in my budgeting videos. This is my boo, my love, my BFF, Micah, and he is coming to join us today on our first Money Mondays of 2025. Woo!
Hola, amigos.
Thank you for joining us today. He does speak English, I promise. So today, we are celebrating 25 plus years of work experience. Micah has been in the electrician and fire alarm industry for over 25 years, y'all. And I thought that this would be a great topic to bring up, especially considering today's economy and just how much money has changed in general in the last 25 years. And I want to share with you guys just kind of like the mindset behind money, the money mindset that Micah brings to the table, which is totally different from the way I approach budgeting and money. So we want to share how we talk about money, manage our household finances, and plan for the future, especially with rising costs and career transitions. So I am going to be referring to my notes because I am determined to keep this video on point time. I'm determined to keep this video short and sweet.
Might be a part two because it sounds like we got a lot to talk about.
So could you briefly, Micah, share with us a timeline basically of how you transitioned into your electrical career and then how fire alarm came along to be a part of that journey to help you into your current role?
Briefly. Let me see. I guess when you get to the end, you got to start at the beginning. So, let's see. So my job experience career, my first job, I was self-employed, technically. I started working for myself in high school, selling sodas in first period gym class. I did that for about 2 years. I would buy sodas at the market, take them home, freeze half, put half in the fridge, sell them to all my thirsty classmates after gym because we didn't have drinkable or potable water in the school or
That's
soda
illegal.
machines. Water had lead, everybody knew it. But so first job unemployed. I also worked at a pizza place delivering flyers. That lasted about a weekend. They paid some pizza and like $5 first. So that was like 16 years old. But my first real job, I started as an electrician in high school. I went to a trade school. So they gave me 4 years of electrical training. And during my 12th grade year, I started an apprenticeship program, which is probably 2099. And I would go to school half a day.
1999?
1999, yeah. I know you're saying this guy looks really good. How 1999? But I started... went to school half a day, went to work half a day. And I stayed with that company for 15 years.
How much were you making with this company? What was your starting rate well, you weren't an electrician yet, right?
Yeah, I started off as a helper. My starting rate was $8 an hour in 1999. When I started apprenticeship, my pay got boosted to $11 an hour. And every 6 months, I would get a 50 cents raise while I was in the apprenticeship program, which was a 4-year program. And at the end, I believe I was supposed to make $15.50 or $16. I can't remember if the math is accurate, but it was like you do your 4 years and there was a little pay increase. So it was about what it was. And then over the years, I got steady pay increases. So over the 15 years, I believe when I left, I was making about $25 an hour, which in Baltimore wasn't bad. It's
and
not
you're
bad.
talking early 2000s.
Yeah.
And you're talking...
So 2015, I left, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, yeah, 15 years of work experience there. And they paid for you to go to school.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was another pay benefit that, and he was paid weekly, which was my favorite thing. I remember they paid out weekly. They paid a yearly bonus. Yeah. There were a lot of perks working with that company, but it wasn't good for your mental health.
No, they were extremely racist.
Yeah, which is something that I think people of color do have to deal with in the fields and the paths that we work in, right? And so despite those challenges. He stuck it out and he stayed, but we always had an exit plan. Like we knew that we were going to be actively looking, especially since there wasn't really anything else you could promote to in
Yeah.
that role, right?
Yeah, I actually quit a few times and found other jobs. But they would always convince me, like on my last day, well, we'll give you this, we'll give you more dollars, we'll do this. And when I was single, because when I first started working there, I was still single. I was like, yeah, I don't need this. And then when I got married, I was like, I'm going to put all this away because I had a constant check every week. We remember we went through a recession back in some of these times.
Oh, yeah.
And
What
like,
was that, 2005, the recession? Or 2007? I remember. It was something crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. And they want say, being in construction, they say one of the telltale signs of a recession was the first things you'll notice is construction stops. So I had a lot of friends who were electrician or in construction as well. And I saw them getting laid off and things like that. And I was like, this ain't the time. I'm always got work because we did a lot of work in government buildings and hospitals and schools, which are always needed. So I had a steady income. And so because I had a family at that time, I had to put them first and know that I was going to be making steady money. And so I had to deal with the foolishness.
Can I just interject too? Something else I remembered that helps you now. They exposed you to the fire alarm pathway.
Yes.
How did that have to come about?
The first time I actually got exposed to fire alarm, when I started with the company and was apprenticeship, I was on a service truck. And the guy on the service truck I worked with knew fire alarm. And so that was the first time I kind of dabbled in it. And I've always kind of been like a technical person, which fire alarm has a lot of controls in it, which is more of the thinking side of electrical work. Not that all electrical work has a lot of thinking of it, but when you deal with controls, it's a little more intricate. And so I kind of leaned more towards that. And once I got out in the actual field where I was on construction sites, a few of the guys I work with who were on fire alarm would say, hey, I'm interested and I want to learn more with this. And there was two guys really who took me under their wing. One was an older white Caucasian, a white gentleman, Howard. I think he passed away now. But, I know for a fact he did because, that was a whole nother story. But he took me under his wing in fire alarm. And there was another guy, Myron Wilson. He probably don't want me to say his name on social media or anything like that, but I got to give him his props. He took me under his wing and told me a whole lot about fire alarm and the way I operated, the way I worked under that company. He gave me a lot of advice on work ethic, working there amongst people who didn't want me to be there. He always said, to get the same thing, you got to work 125% harder, this, that, and the other. But he really helped me settle into my role as an electrician and as a fire alarm technician in the company, with paying attention to a lot of the details, which really helped me a lot.
That's awesome. Okay, so now you are working in kind of an electrical engineer type role where you are responsible for making sure that systems stay online, active, working,
yes,
operational. And that includes not just electrical and fire alarm, but HVAC and a series of other systems. And your responsibility is just the oversight of those things and keeping them on and working. And you have a team of people that you are managing and they're making sure that these systems stay on. So can you talk about a little bit more about your certifications and what exactly like a NICET level 2 fire person does?
Okay.
And how that helped you move to Hawaii?
Yeah. So when I left the first job as electrician and / fire alarm in 2015, I went to this company called
Don't say it.
Yeah, okay. I went to another company, and I started there as a fire alarm technician, and they hired me. At that time, I didn't have like any fire alarm certifications, but I just went in word of mouth and told them my experience, and I interviewed well. So said, this guy knows what he's talking about, but I never got my certification because the company that I worked for before kind of didn't really emphasize, like, I never even had my journeyman's license because I worked under somebody else's master's license. And when you would ask, like, hey, not knowing any better, hey, do I need to get this license? Even though I qualified for them, knew all the information and everything like that, they were like, oh, you don't really need it. You're just working under somebody else's. So once I changed companies, I realized the importance of having those certificates, that paperwork, and things like that. So I went there and I got my NICET level 1, and I got Siemens-certified in fire alarm. That's because it was required for the position, even though they hired me before I got it. It was a requirement for the position. Eventually, I got my NICET level 2. Actually, it was pretty recently. But I realized I wasted a lot of time where I could have been leveling up, building these certifications, increasing my resume, increasing my worth. I ended up getting my journeyman's electrical license, which I've been qualified for. I just never had the need to get it. But once I moved to that second company as fire alarm technician, that was a great. I know talking about money for me, that was about $8.
Oh, I actually have it. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, I'm getting a little too excited. I almost dropped it. Okay. We're good on time, so let's do it.
Okay, we're still good on time.
So I can go back as far as 2015. Your starting salary was $32 and change.
Coming from 25 in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, which was great at the time for me.
And you never know how much you'll get paid until you go look for another job and interview and see the offer, which I think was a lot of it. You knew that you would get paid more, but I don't know if you knew it was going to be that much more. Like that was so much of an increase to do the same work or less.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the other thing.
Right. So I went back to my job and I had put in my 2 weeks notice, and they did their usual, and they were like, "Hey, well, we're going to offer you this, and the other." And I was like, "Can't really top what I'm getting." As far as money, they were like, well, we can give you a company vehicle, gas card, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. So even though I was in a company where it wasn't set up for my success, I guess they valued my worth in the office because they knew what I brought to the table, and they were talking about promotions, and where I had asked for promotions before. And one of the things they said, the guy I talked earlier about who passed away, they were like, oh, we were waiting for him to pass away or leave so we can move you into his role. When I was like, well, he passed away a couple months ago. And we're like, yeah, but we're ready to put you in there now. I'm like, why, when I'm ready to leave, are you ready to move me into that position where I've been asking? Months before I put in for a new position, I said, hey, I'm trying to increase my worth in the company. Is there anything that I'm missing, anything that I could learn or work in the company where I can increase my worth? Is there anything you feel like I'm lacking? Is there anything, I just put myself out there, and they're like, no, you're good. You know everything, you're right where you want me to be, this, that, and the other. And so if I'm spinning my wheels and not improving myself, why am I still here? I could, for what I was making at the time, $25, I could go anywhere and make that. So
I like it.
Yeah.
Can you briefly talk about what 25 years in the field has taught you about money?
So, well, I have a money philosophy that's different from what I actually make. I had
Go ahead, say it.
So, one thing I always believed, and I set the standard for my I didn't know for myself when I was younger. I didn't know if it was realistic, but I said I always want to make, once I hit a point in my life where my dollar amount was more than my age, I wanted to at least be making more than my age in money, which means if I'm 25, I should be making at least $25 per hour. If I'm 50, I should be making at least $50 per hour, which now don't sound that much, but back then was really great, because our economy is rough right now. So you almost need to be making more than that. So, and I was able to do that for most of my career.
So with this company, you jumped from $32 an hour to $35 an hour within the first 4 years. And then you jumped another dollar a year later to $35 and change. No, sorry, $36 and change. And then you had a huge increase when you got another promotion to $60 per hour. And you've pretty much been at, I would say, $60 to $70 per hour since then.
Yes. So I'm from 32 to 35. I came in as a fire tech, and I realized that electricians made more, a few more dollars an hour. On top of that hourly wage, I was also making a differential because I was working night shift. So I was actually making more than that, but I just made the jump from fire alarm to electrician since they needed both in the company, and I qualified. Fire alarm at that time was underpaid anyway. I think
it still is.
Yeah, but they equaled up the pay to electrician pay now for the Maryland contract. And then when I moved out to Hawaii, which was it's a whole nother video story in itself.
Yeah, you'll have to see our old content where we went into more depth about our move to Hawaii and what made us make the jump.
Yeah. I was out here actually temporarily for a management position, which I came out here not even knowing what the position meant, what it entailed, any of that. But it was just a case of fake it till you make it. And
being flexible,
making myself available. And I actually did pretty well at it, to the point where the person they actually hired for it, I had to train him for the position I was doing and take a position underneath of him, which I was humble enough to do because I was only there temporarily and this and the other. But him and the company ended up not being a good fit, and they requested me to come back and take the position permanently. So
we didn't have to leave Hawaii or anything. We were able to stay. But you being flexible and humble enough to let the other person go through, because you knew you were here temporarily to do that role.
Right.
But I think that speaks to your character, and the company saw that.
Yeah.
For sure, and took full advantage.
Yeah. So that being said, like, I know a lot of the channel is about money, and I'm not saying that I made like huge accomplishments, this, that, and the other, but a lot of it's just putting yourself out there, being available, willing to jump in. One thing I'll tell people is, like, if you go for a position, don't disqualify yourself. Let the company tell you you're not qualified, or go in there and see if you can qualify for it.
Yeah. It helped us become debt free the first time by you making that big jump and us moving to Hawaii. Who else can say like they moved to Hawaii and things got easier money wise for them? They got a pay increase and they were able to, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's not Hawaii. It's the fact that we were able to move to where the job was willing to pay us more, and it worked out for us. And I think that's the reason why we know that we can become debt free again, because we're flexible. We're always learning new skills, and we're learning from our past mistakes. We're not going to allow the things that happened to us in our 20s and 30s affect us now and beyond, because we 40 now, y'all. We in our 40s. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm like in an engineering position, but I'm not an engineer. I've never been to school for engineering, but it's just learning on the job. I'm still learning on the job.
And you're looking for new jobs,
right?
Because it's like he's promoted to the point where he can't really promote again, and so he's like, let me see what my options are. Ain't nothing really, it's nothing wrong with looking.
Yeah. One. I'm not looking, boss.
You know, this will be the one video that makes it to him. Okay, so high cost of living in Hawaii. So even with a solid income, Hawaii prices are no joke. In fact, I think the rest of the world has officially caught up to what we have going on over here. I think we still are, pretty crazy in the housing department. Rent and owning a home is just crazy in Hawaii. It's pretty much California and New York prices. So how are we adjusting? Why are we okay?
I think it's their flexibility. We've been broke before. We've been in a position where we've made way more money than we've known what to do with it before. We've been on both ends of the spectrum. And I think being flexible, just knowing how to pivot. Oh, we just can't afford to do this anymore, so we're not going to do it. It's that simple. So I think a lot of people get tied into a certain lifestyle, and you hear about those people. Oh, I was a great big CEO, and then they lost their job and took themselves and their whole family out.
Crazy.
I'll be happy living in the box.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mental health, I think, is important, and I think the fact that we very clearly define what our needs and wants are. And we're okay with the fact that a need for us is self-care. And what that looks like for us is taking time to indulge ourselves in an occasional massage, or just having a mental health day off of work, or traveling. Traveling is the one expense that we still allow ourselves to have on this debt-free journey because we know how important it is. It's a good reset. It re-energizes us, and we don't let people make us feel bad about it. So I feel bad for all those people talking in the comments like, how do you afford to travel when you're paying off debt? It's real easy. It's a budget line item.
Yeah. And another thing, like Sunday mornings, we go out for a walk.
Yeah.
Which resets my palate. Not my palate, but my physical palate, I guess you could say. Go out, get fresh air, fresh sun. I work in the office indoors all day, and I sit down, and just that bit of movement. Which that's Sunday is like our longest walk.
Yeah.
I try to do like walks throughout the evening or before work, this and the other. But Sunday we really go out there, sweat in the sun, and just
go hard. And that's what got us to finish a 10K and a half marathon. And who knew that those would end up being accomplishments that we would care about?
Right.
It's like the wins, the non-money wins are keeping our mental health and our enjoyment of life. Those are things that don't cost a lot of money to do, and they only make you a better version of yourself.
Yeah, so there's things that we do that cost money, but there's things that we do that are free. Walking is free. Getting sunshine is free. I mean, depending on where you live. Oh, I mean, everywhere is free, but it's not sunshine every day, everywhere. But, even if you just got to put on a coat, get some fresh air, meditation, things like that you can just do for free.
Your spiritual routine,
absolutely.
And I know we could go on and on, but we do want to start closing this down because we will continue to have these money conversations. I have to beg Micah to sit down and make these videos, but I know the value he brings because, a lot of different channels offer a lot of different things. And I think that one thing that we could definitely share is, how people manage money as a partnership. We're in this thing together, and I'm essentially spending his paycheck when I bring these budget videos to you guys, but you don't know, the person behind the money. And so, we want to share with you the type of conversations that we have off camera, because we realize not all people are married the same. Some people are married or together, living together, and they don't combine their finances. We choose to combine ours, but we also have separate play money. We also have, and I think that we found a way to make money work for us, and we're always willing to be flexible. Like if Boo comes to me, he's like, hey, listen, I'm gonna need some money. Which, let me just end on a high note. It's 25 years of him, being in his career and working in a field that I think he excels at. And so we want to spend some time. So this morning we, bought him some clothes online at one of his favorite stores, one of my favorite stores to see him dressed in. And I think we didn't have to look at money. We didn't have to look at, we considered the cost, and we were like, okay, what feels right to spend? We had our limit, but it was nice to just indulge in him and just make sure he had some nice clothes to refresh his closet. And also we're going to get that Nintendo for him. I feel like this is his month. Those are the two things he's asked for. And that's what I'm going to include in our budget this month. So thank you for being a part of Money Mondays, the reset, the refresh, the comeback. Don't call it a comeback energy. And we invite you guys to share with us something in the comments that works for you. If you are someone who shares your finances with anyone else in your household, maybe you live with your auntie or uncle, or maybe you live with your grandmother, maybe you live with your adult child, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. We want to hear in the comments, do you guys combine finances? What works for you? And also, what topic should we tackle next? Because there's more to this conversation, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be a part 2 to this.
Yeah.
But
you could ask me those same questions, and I could have a whole completely still in line answer, but, I don't know. I guess the question is, do you feel like the money journey, or I guess we're talking about our journey, is always a beautiful one or a peaceful one or a...
I think so, because we have a respect for each other, so we don't let it break us apart. We can get serious. We have intense.
We've had arguments about it before.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially when it comes to you talking about me spending his money, or or him not having that much of a say. Or I've entirely given the budget to him before several times and say, you do it, Yeah. And I
used to do our budget.
He was our original budgeter.
Yeah.
I think people don't understand. So I feel
and it was an argument. And it was a bumpy road.
The realness.
Yeah.
The realness.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's why I feel such a responsibility and such a seriousness to manage every dollar and give it a job, because I know that is a big deal to you. You want to see the needle move. And I respect the income that you bring in.
Right.
I don't want to just be like, we're going shopping this weekend, y'all, you know, like with Micah's hard-earned dollars.
Which sometimes we go shopping this weekend. And I respect her view of money. She respects my view of money.
Yeah.
But it took us, 25 years? Well, not 25 years to get here, but it took us a while to get here. Yeah. And we did a lot of the pre-work in the beginning. Yeah. So it's not, I'll say it's not always a smooth road. There's ups, downs. Mm-hmm. But I think you need that to get,
That's normal.
Yeah.
If you're not having if you're not having conversations about money, then you're never arguing probably. Or you're probably always arguing. But honestly, that's a part of the normal money conversation. I think is to disagree. Yeah.
And sometimes you have to agree to disagree.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But it's important to have those discussions. I say all that to say this. It's important to have those discussions. You know, sometimes they're hard discussions. Sometimes you got to break away. Like, we can't finish this right now. We got to come back and circle around after we both cool off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's it for today. Thank y'all for joining Money Monday.
Did I get heavy? Did I get too heavy?
No, you got serious. You got serious. This is the realness. This is exactly the conversations that I wanted to bring to the channel. So thank you, boo.
You're welcome.
And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, you know what it is.
Peace, love, and budgets.
Yes.
Ah!